Welcome to Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, back again with another episode for y'all. In this episode, I'm going to be doing something different. I've started this program where I'm asking people that are incarcerated, those individuals that have been released from prison, to write me and share their stories with me so that I can share them with you. I'm also in touch with some people outside of the United States and asking them to reach out to me and let me know what they think about the decisions that they've made and how crime has affected their lives, right? My show is being listened to in 38 different countries, and it's because of that I'm able to nurture some relationships outside of the country that are going to lead to some good stories for you to hear so that you can see what it's like, around the world when it comes to crime and how this is not a problem unique to the United States. Now, the mass incarceration is unique to the United States, but the problems of crime and the decisions that some in society make and how they affect other people is a universal thing. And I think that, we can do better, but I want to give voice to the individuals that are in a similar situation such as I am, because I think with that, doing that small part that I am doing, I think that gives people the understanding and strength in a lot of cases to know that they can do something better, even under the worst of circumstances. It's in that commonality that we gain strength, understanding that, you're not going through something alone, that you can get the strength to pull away from it. And I hope that that's one of the things that you're getting out of this when you listen to my shows. But at the same time, again, I'm going to be reading this letter, and it's written to me by this guy. I'm not going to say his name. He served 8 years in prison for drugs, selling drugs. But as I'm reading this letter, I might make a mistake here and there because I got to, look over it. Even though I've read it several times, I still may make a mistake here and there, so bear with me. But I think this story is one that you're going to enjoy hearing. With that said, I want you to sit back, relax, and enjoy the show, y'all. Dear Joe, I had just been released from prison after serving 8 long years. It was a hot summer day, the sun beating down on my skin as I walked out of the gates. I looked around at the people waiting outside, but I didn't see anyone I recognized. My heart sank at the thought that I didn't have anyone waiting for me on the outside of the gates. No family, no friends, nobody. But I had to keep moving forward. I knew that I had to find a job and a place to live, but I had no idea where to start. I had no money, no job prospects, and a criminal record that made it difficult to find work. But I was determined to turn my life around. I didn't want to go back to my old neighborhood and make the same old new friends and start up again selling drugs. So I went to a halfway house where I was given a bed to sleep in for a few nights. I was required to attend daily meetings and keep a strict curfew. The halfway house also helped me to look for jobs. And after a few days, I was able to land a job at a construction company. I worked hard, showing up on time every day and putting in long hours. I was determined to make a new life for myself, but it wasn't easy. I had to deal with the stigma of being an ex-convict. I had a hard time adjusting to life on the outside of prison because dealing with my co-workers, they were always looking at me and making me feel like I was less than them. I didn't take it personal, but I have to be honest, it did bother me because they didn't really know me. All they knew about me was that I had just gotten out of prison. I didn't hide that. But they looked at me with suspicion, and it affected me. Again, I didn't hold it against them in a personal way, but it did affect the way I conducted myself around them. I felt like I couldn't trust them. I felt like that I couldn't open all the way up to them about what I wanted to do with my life. One day, while on my lunch break, I ran into some old friends from the dope game. I hadn't seen them in years, but they still recognized me. And one of my old friends invited me to come hang out with them and a few other guys later that night. And I agreed. That night, I found myself hanging out with my old friends from the dope game. They were all still doing the same things. All the same things that they used to do. And it made me feel nostalgic. We talked about old times, and I felt like I was back in the old lifestyle, just for a moment, mentally. And honestly, it was a comforting feeling. But I knew I couldn't stay there, because if it was making me feel good just to talk about it, I can only imagine what it was going to do if I stepped into it. The next day, I met my neighbor, Roxanne. She was a beautiful woman with long brown hair and a smile that could light up a room. I found myself drawn to her, and we started talking. She told me about her life and how she was struggling to make ends meet. She worked at a diner, and her tips barely covered her bills. I felt a connection to her and wanted to help her. I started to spend more time with her. We would go on walks, watch movies together, and talk about our dreams for the future. I realized that I had started to develop feelings for Roxanne, and I knew that I wanted to be with her. One day, I received a phone call from my sister. I hadn't heard from her in months. I really didn't want to stay connected to my family, because the neighborhood that they lived in was where all the trouble for me began. So I kept my distance. I wish that I wouldn't have. Not from my family, but I did. She told me that our mother had been shot in a home invasion and was in the hospital. I was devastated. I rushed to the hospital to be with my family. When I got to the hospital, I found my family waiting in the waiting room. They were all crying, and I could barely keep it together myself. My mother had been shot during a home invasion, and the bullet had hit her in the chest. She was in critical condition, and the doctors weren't sure if she was going to make it. I sat by my mother's side, holding her hand and praying for her to pull through. I felt helpless, and all I could do was wait. After a few days, my mother passed away. I was heartbroken. I didn't know how to deal with my grief, and I found myself turning back to the dope game. I started to hang out with my old friends again and started selling drugs. It was a way to numb the pain and forget about my problems. One day, while I was making a deal, I felt this presence all around me. Then I heard my mother's voice saying, "This is not the way. Turn back." At that time, I didn't really understand what she was trying to say to me. So I left. I thought it was a sign from her that I was being set up. I totally misread that. So when I got home that afternoon, I told Roxanne what I had experienced. And she told me that wasn't a sign from your mother to turn away from that drug deal. That was a sign from your mother to turn away from this lifestyle. And as I sat on the side of the bed and pondered what Roxanne had said, I realized that she was correct. I realized that it was my mother looking out for me, not doing a drug deal, but she wanted me to turn away from that lifestyle. I remember growing up, my mother used to always tell me that I could be and do anything that I wanted to do, that I was blessed. But I had to realize that for myself. See, it doesn't matter how many times somebody loves you, tells you that you're special. You have to believe that yourself. And when you start to believe that, you'll start to do things that personify that you know that you're special. So that night, I set up with Roxanne and we talked about our plans. And I told her that I was going to quit selling drugs, that I was done. And she asked me when. And I said tomorrow. She said tonight. Call all your friends that say that they're friends that you're selling drugs with and tell them that you're done. And as I picked up the phone, she smacked the phone out of my hand and I'm like, what are you doing? She said, better yet, don't call and tell them nothing. Let's just pack up and leave. And as I sat there and I thought about what she said, I knew she was right. So we started packing. I had no idea where we were going. She didn't either. We had a little money saved up. So once we got our bags packed, we got in the car and we just drove away. I didn't have to worry about asking permission to move because I had flattened my sentence. So we moved away. When we stopped driving, we found ourselves in Nashville, Tennessee. There were so many opportunities for me there. I got another job in construction, making good money. Roxanne got a job at a restaurant, and together we were making it. We found an apartment, and the landlord, knowing our history, my history, he still rented it to us. I was so excited about what my life was going to be like with Roxanne. We moved together throughout all the trials and tribulations that we had, never hiding anything from each other, always sharing. And today, I'm proud to say that Roxanne is pregnant and we're having a baby. We don't know what the sex is. We don't want to know. But whatever it is, we're going to love it. And we're going to teach it the right way. And I just wanted to let you know that for any of your listeners out there that may be going through similar circumstances, stay strong. It gets brighter. It's not going to be as bad as you think for as long as you think. Things will get better. With that, I'm going to leave you now. And I hope that you continue to do what you're doing. Stay strong, brother. Woo! That's the first letter of my new program that I'm doing, y'all. Giving voice to the men and women that have been through this lifestyle, being in prison, getting out of prison, and going through what they go through. Again, I wanted to share that with you because I think it's important for you to know that if you've been in a similar situation and you think it's going to stay dark, I'm telling you it's not. You're going to be better. Just hold on. Hold on. Keep pushing. Keep doing the right things. And sometimes when you make these decisions that are not going to give you immediate gratification, it's the best decision that you can make. If you do anything that's going to cause you to violate the law and to violate your moral compass, trust and believe that the consequences are not going to be beneficial to you. So stand strong, y'all. Stand strong. This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I say peace, y'all.